Bright and early right here on Channels Television is the weekend edition of the Morning Brief. Welcome. I'm Jeffrey Uzonga.
Good morning, beautiful people, and thank you for joining us again on the last edition for this week. I'm Anne Nwawadu.
You know, today's the day you pull off your jacket, roll up your sleeves,
and just let your hair down.
Exactly, as Anne is doing. Good morning. I'm Kayode Okikelu.
So let's get started with what's going on X, or former Twitter.
Yes.
So this is my advice to every African country. So this is how it works. This is for non-Nigerians, because Nigerians understand what I'm about to say. When you want to start a war with Nigeria on social media, I hope you're ready for that war, because what's going on between Nigerians and South Africa, I'm just feeling for those, car hailing services, those guys who provide those services. So the backdrop, from what we understand, is the fact that for whatever reason, some South Africans decided that they want to target Nigerian car hailing services. So they will order the car from, say, Butemeta. They've not been here, and they'll say they are somewhere maybe in Yaba or some. So the guy would drive down to the location and be waiting, kept waiting, and just kept waiting. And what did they cancel at the end of the day? And this continued for a couple of other car hailing services. Well, when Nigerians got wind of it, Nigerians said, okay, two can play this game, so let's play. And when Nigerians get involved in this, look, we have time on our hand, we have population. So how do you want to start this war? So at the end of the day, I heard that some Nigerians, they don't just hail the car. They order, some people can provide pay on delivery service. Right. So they order like a refrigerator, television. I'm telling you, some people order as much as that.
Well, this battle...
And then when they come to the location, they cancel the ride. Yeah,
so the battle started with a South African actually tweeting or Xing, I don't know how you want to call it now, saying, when I'm bored, I order rides from Nigeria.
Oh.
That was where just for context, that was where it started from. So a lot of South Africans started saying, oh, really? Is it possible? So send us the link. And then that was how it started spreading across South Africa. A lot of people started getting rides from Nigeria. But while in South Africa, they said, just open an app, say you're in South Africa, or say you're in Nigeria, just choose a location, and then you can be. So that was how, and then Nigerians found out, and they started. In fact, yesterday, someone tweeted that, someone ordered a ride, he was in Nigeria, and ordered a ride from South Africa, and the rider actually drove 183 minutes to get to the venue or destination. And that's just to go and pick the person who ordered a ride, and it was just false. That is how much Nigerians can take things to the extreme.
Well,
if you try them or react, we can be that petty. So when you want to try Nigerians next time, and it's been back and forth on X yesterday, I just laughed all through yesterday night. But again, to those it will affect, you should also consider the people who are affected. Some of them are not even South Africans. Some of them are foreigners from other countries who have come to hustle in South Africa. And some of them might even be Nigerians. You don't even know. You're biting yourself or hitting yourself because you're trying to pay back. So while we do things, please be cautious. While we want to give our boost, try to be very considerate of other people.
There's a saying here that first to do,
you know the pain. It's the second one.
So I know that was probably the philosophy that a lot of people approach this subject matter with a lot of aura, verve, demure, and all of that.
Demure,
right?
Mindful.
And Jeffrey, you guys know these things. You know how it works. How things start from a joke, and then some people take it overboard. I think now is a good time to just let things slide. I understand that the ride-hailing apps and services have stopped across-country ordering, so that's good. Also, you know that this will actually affect your rating on the apps, right? And I did a survey recently, asked people to do a screenshot of their rating on the ride-hailing services. That way I know the kind of person you are. So if you have something like a 4 or a 3, I know that you've not been good to the drivers or vice versa. But the point is, this will also affect your rating on those ride-hailing services. More importantly, you could be barred, right? So while there's a lot of, what's that word again that they use on X when you're doing things like this? It's called, goodness me, there's a term, cruise.
Oh, the catching cruise,
Catching cruise. While you're catching cruise, don't forget, as we've said, people's livelihoods are tied to this, and you don't know how these things might spiral. So we don't want to see anybody taking it too serious, taking it too far. So now is a good time to say, okay, 1-1, let us close shop and move on. But it speaks, guys, to how a lot of people have time on their hands. I don't know if to call it unemployment. I don't mind being, well, Cruz's workshop or Devil's workshop.
You know,
this is a big challenge.
You know, someone was saying on X or across social media yesterday that if Nigerians can channel this energy, all the energy they're putting into giving Cruz and doing Basbos and giving it back as we take it to government, bad governance, the economy, and every other thing, I think it'll go a long way in making a positive difference. So maybe we should learn to channel our energies into more positive things for positive outcome.
So at the end of the day, not making a case for Nigerians, but of course I'm patriotic. It's not as if they have so much on their hands. I know there's unemployment apparently.
In both countries, by the way.
In both countries, by the way. But at the end of the day, it's about the fact that you don't take on Nigerians and expect them not to fight you.
Jeffrey, behind the scenes we're commending Nigerians, but on air we're saying no, let us...
On the other hand is the fact that, look, Nigerians like to win. They like to win.
We do not like to lose.
And so places where they are not rigged the games, so, I mean, you know, in government, they can scream at government may not listen. Just like us is screaming now, I'm giving you 3 weeks, so government is behaving like they're not listening yet until things may get out of hand. So those places where they know they can get immediate results, places like this, social media, they can get immediate result. Reality shows they can get immediate result. They will do. So if government responds to people the way they get results on other things, trust me, even the government will be looking for where to hide. So what do we have for you today? Let's bring you up to speed. It's a big one for us. As Justice Kudera Kekereko takes charge of the judicial arm of government, one major responsibility she must take on is judicial reform that may win back public confidence in the administration of justice and improve the approval rating of both the bench and the bar. A legal practitioner will be here to itemize some of the checklists of the things she has to do.
All right, and we talk about tourism, which is a very interesting topic, especially in Nigeria. We know it is an untapped diamond. Nigeria is, of course, blessed with abundant tourist sites and tourism potentials, but the returns in the sector has not been harnessed. So, following underdevelopments, a legacy issue, and many other things, can the current policymakers make a difference? Well, the Minister of Tourism joins us to make a case for tourism this morning.
And for that, I brought my tourism Bible. Basically, it has a picture of wonderful places in Nigeria. So this is a conversation you definitely don't want to miss. But that is not all in the show this morning. On the softer side of things, he is one of the finest comedians in Akwa Ibom State and that region, making en route to national prominence with a style of humor as natural. General Ode. Is it 5, 2, 3-star general? Well, you find out. He joins us on the show, the weekend edition. It's your perfect day starter, guys. Why not start with a good laugh?
It's a good one. That's how we started on it. I'm happy for the first time in a long while we started with something. Although the car hailing services, they are not too happy, but it's cruise in a way. So Nigerians together will say, calm down. So relax. So
we're pleading.
The only people that can match us, I don't know how they do it when it comes to social media. Ghana. I don't know. I think we're related.
No, I think most times what we do is just do Big Brother.
You're too young.
I also think we have the same energy with Ghanaians and Nigerians.
I think we know ourselves. We know ourselves a bit closely.
We're just connected. All right, so let's talk about all of this on our social media handles. Don't forget, would like to hear your reaction, how you felt about everything that went on yesterday on X, and of course the serious things also, and what we'll be discussing on the program today. We already gave you a highlight, so I'd like to hear from you. Just go to, or use that WhatsApp number that I'll be showing on your screen right now. Please don't call that number, and you cannot reach me yet, as Kayode said yesterday.
Maybe you can
reach all of us on that number. Just get your messages right there. And if you're on social media, don't forget to put the hashtag CTV Morning Brief.
Absolutely. So, hey, as you do all of that, we will be bringing you your top stories. After this break, then we'll get to the very first conversation for the day. Join us again. Up on the brief this morning is a parting words from the immediate past Chief Justice of Nigeria, Justice Lukayode Ariwoola, seeking reforms to reduce the workload on the Supreme Court. He explains how too many cases get to the apex court that ought to have been terminated at the appellate court. Justice Ariwoola gave the counsel during a valedictory session in his honor at the Supreme Court in Abuja. He said access to justice has contributed largely to the delay in the hearing of cases, as litigants and lawyers are forced to wait for several years to have their cases decided.
My noble lords, it is however my belief that access to justice should not be regarded as uncontrolled and unfiltered liberty to bring all forms of cases to the Supreme Court. It is my belief that we trivialize the institution of the Supreme Court as a court of policy when every form of litigation is able to meander its way to the apex court. It is my conviction that the right to fair hearing enshrined in the Constitution of the Federal Republic of Nigeria could only be meaningful when litigants have enough judges and justices to hear their cases. Justice is not a scarce commodity to be queued for. Justice without delay is inherent, natural, and constitutional.
That event was attended by his successor, Justice Kudura Kekerekun, and the Vice President, Senator Kashim Shettima, who eulogized the CJN and shared the commitment of the executive arm of government to ensure the third arm of government serves its constitutional role.
I urge the Nigerian judiciary to live up to its constitutional mandate and ignore those who never see anything good in the judiciary unless the pendulum of justice swings their way. I commend the book, the document of record, to lawyers, jurists, eminent scholars, and other individuals in Nigeria's legal community who can learn from his lordship's experiences.
Let's stay in Abuja, but away from that, the Petroleum and Natural Gas Senior Staff Association of Nigeria, PENGASAN, is asking the federal government to urgently deploy relevant security agencies to secure key oil installations in the Niger Delta and remove the provision of security from overhead of international oil companies operating in the country. The position of the association was conveyed by its national president, Mr. Festus Osifo, on the second day of the third edition of PENGASAN's Energy and Labour Summit in Abuja. Mr. Osifo also revealed that the cost of production in Nigeria is having an adverse effect on its revenue, as oil companies have to provide security for their operations at a very high cost.
When you go to an air and you see a particular vessel, a supply vessel going offshore, you are going to have 2, 3, 4 security vessels going with one supply vessel that is sailing offshore. That is the cost is quite huge. So we are calling on government that they should take away that cost from the IOCs by deploying a lot of security vessels to police our oil and gas investment. Because today, as it's been said, it was echoed yesterday, that crude is now found literally everywhere in the world, unlike before, where we were the toast.
Let's move on now. A challenge has now been extended by the governor of IMO State, Hope Uzodinma, maintaining he doesn't meddle in corrupt practices and dares anyone with evidence to prove him wrong. A challenge to the public came while Senator Uzodinma was giving his remarks at an event organized to honor the First Republic Premier of Eastern Region, Dr. Michael Opara, in Abuja. He advised the public officers, office holders, to desist from engaging in corruption and urged them to emulate the late Dr. Michael Opara to achieve a more prosperous country.
Rendering of honest and dedicated service without soiling his hands in corruption is an enduring lesson that those of us currently in public office should emulate. Public office holders should live within their legitimate means. As I speak, nobody can come out openly to accuse me of corruption. My close aides, and I challenge anybody. My close aides who engaged in untoward activities never knew how fast they were thrown out of government.
Big challenge from Governor Hope Uzodinma. So if you have evidence against him that is corrupt, maybe it is a good time. Well, let's move on. At least 13 people have been killed following a bandit attack on locals in their farm at the Joa fringes of Alawa community of Shiroro local government area of Niger State. The bandits are reported to have shot and killed 9 persons on the spot, while 4 others were killed at different locations on the same day. The chairman of Shiroro local government area and an eyewitness who spoke to Channels Television said the bandits targeted residents of Alawa community due to their continuous supply of intelligence to security agencies on bandits' movement and hideout. The Niger State acting governor Yakubu Garba describes the incident as evil, insensible, and callous. And this attack comes at the time farmers are suspected to spend more time in their farms. Channels Television gathered that several others far away from the scene have also deserted their farmland for fear of possible attack. Let's head back down south. The Enugu State government has demolished property allegedly used by kidnappers for their activities in the outskirts of Enugu, the state capital. The chairman of Enugu Capital Territory Development Authority, Mr. Uche Anya, explains that among the property were an uncompleted story building with an underground tunnel at Nkubo layout in Emenike, where a large cache of arms and ammunition were recovered, and a large farmhouse of poultry, piggery, and plantation were also discovered. Messiah stresses that the government is determined to eliminate all manner of criminality from the state and take over the property for government use. In Edo State, Governor Godwin Obaseki says the incident of cultism and homicide has witnessed a drastic reduction since the introduction of the Special Task Force Against Cultism in May this year. Mr. Obaseki said this momentum will be sustained in collaboration with other security agencies in the state. And according to him, statistics from the monthly incident report shows that the figure of 129 recorded in May has now gone down to 79 in June and down to even 50 in July. He gave the disclosure during a briefing with journalists after the monthly Security Council meeting at the government house in Benin City.
We saw the total incidents drop from 79 incidents reported last month to 50 incidents this month. That is the month of July. It dropped from 79 in June to 50 in July. You recall we set up a committee in May, the Committee on Cultism in May, where the total incidents had risen to an all-time high of 129 cases of crime for the month of May, mainly driven by cultism, homicide, and drugs. Since that committee swung into action, we have seen remarkable success. The incidents dropped from 129 in May to 79 in June, and to a further 50 incidents in July. August till date, we've also seen a similar trend. Many arrests have been made, and we are ensuring that we commence prosecution, and we're assured by the relevant authorities that from evidence gathered so far, we should be able to.
Let's talk some business. The Chief of Staff to the President, Mr. Femi Gbajabiamila, says the 2025 budget for the State House agencies will be based on a thorough needs assessment to ensure that funding allocation to agencies are based on actual requirements. He said this after a one-day fact-finding tour of some government agencies under the supervision of the State House, such as the Niger Culture, Agriculture and Land Development Agency, the Bureau of Public Procurement, among others. Mr. Gbajabiamila asked the staff of these agencies to embrace innovation, excellence, and professionalism while emphasizing the importance of transparency in the procurement process.
We get a lot of complaints, we get a lot of letters, we get a lot of correspondences, especially in the areas of budgeting as well. So whilst we try to balance the need to meet these people, these agencies at their point of challenge, we also need to balance that, a very delicate balance of that, with the cost of governance. Definitely, resources are limited. In any country in the world, resources are limited. So it's about prioritizing. What are the mandates of these agencies? Where are we so far? What have they done? How have they measured up to their mandate? How important is the mandate in terms of the vision of this administration and the renewed hope agenda? So we have to prioritize and determine what is required. I will say that a lot of our agencies are not properly funded. So do we merge some of these agencies? If they can be merged, do we even scrap if they can be scrapped? I'm not talking about these ones, I'm just generally. Or do we actually fund fully fund a little bit more than we're funding to meet the target goals or the targeted goals? And that's what we're doing. That's what we hope come 2025. We're not just budgeting in a vacuum. We're budgeting based on needs and based on our needs assessment.
Let's get an international scene. Besides the iconic and record-breaking performance of Tobago at the Olympics, Botswana is back in the news, this time with the discovery of the second largest diamond ever found, a rough 2,492 carat stone unearthed at the mine owned by Canadian firm Lucara Diamond. This is the biggest find since the 3,106 carat Cullinan diamond found in South Africa. That's in 1905 and cut into 9 separate stones, many of which are in the British Crown Jewels. The diamond was found at Karowa Mine, about 500 kilometers, that's 300 miles north of Botswana's capital, Gaborone. And Botswana's government said it was the largest diamond ever discovered in the South African state. In sports news, the University of Lagos says it is leaving no stone unturned to ensure that the fast-approaching 11th Federation of African University Sports Game is successful. The Vice-Chancellor, Professor Folashade Ogunshola, made this known at a briefing to intimate the media on the preparations of the university to co-host the competition with the Lagos State University. The Federation of African Universities Sports Game, also tagged Lagos 2024, will hold from September 21st to September the 28th.
UNILAG has always been a beacon of excellence in academics and sports, and we view this responsibility as an opportunity to reinforce our leadership role in promoting student-athlete development across Africa. Our preparation for the FASU Games has been meticulous. We have upgraded our sports facilities to international standards, and we have ensured that the necessary logistics are in place to guarantee a seamless and exciting event. I want to ensure all participants, officials, and spectators that UNILAG will deliver an unforgettable experience that reflects the spirit of African unity and excellence.
The unis are heading down to Lagos, Nigeria, the city of excellence. So let's see how that plays out. But hey, those are the stories we've been tracking in the last 24 hours. Will form part of our conversation for today on the show and perhaps the rest of the day on the station. But Anne joins me now to bring us up to speed with what you have been talking about on X, especially maybe that war between South Africa. I don't know. But
the war between, we'll see if that will come up, but if people will react to that war. But we're not talking war, we're talking another form of war right now. You know, when it comes to money and increments and all of that, Nigerians are always at the edge, like saying, why are you increasing at this time when we're still trying to find a balanced meal, or 3 square meal a day? So a lot of people have been talking about the federal government's approval of an upward review of the Nigerian passport fees to ensure quality and integrity.
How much is it now? The last time I did, I've even forgotten the amount. So, okay, maybe
we'll get the figure before at the end of the show, the exact figure. All right, so this is from Amin Susil, who says that you're increasing the cost of obtaining international passports at a time when citizens are barely able to afford 2 square meals on a daily. And what about those who have already submitted passport renewals and the change of data applications which are yet to be produced?
Elvis Olise says inflation affect Nigerian passport. FG the high price of their every document and advise the pepper seller to reduce price. Okay, that's a good point. That's a good point as well.
All right, Read Dr. Barnes says that the main reason for the price increase should have been read to reflect the current rate of inflation and economic realities rather than maintain the quality and integrity of. So he's saying, oh, the reason shouldn't be maintaining quality and integrity. It should be some human, maybe something that shows some human feeling from the government instead of just saying integrity and quality.
Even reading that statement itself is what. So do you mean what you've been doing is not quality, it doesn't have integrity? So perhaps that's what he's saying. Use the right term. Say things are hard, so we have to add money to this thing. All right, prudence for a reason. Say that's pretty pruddy. That's what you call yourself on X. Food they cost, electricity they cost, fuel cost and scarce. House rent outrageous, insecurity at its peak. Now international passport self don't cost. What a country.
All right. And the next one is coming from Niger Musins, who says that this is ridiculous. Passport shouldn't be inherently prohibitive that an average Nigerian earning minimum wage cannot afford. The bloated immigration service and the many premises of double payment is what needs to be revamped. Transparency, accountability, that's it.
All right. El Bruzi says passport that should be free for citizens. What exactly are we benefiting from Nigeria's purse? So those are your thoughts.
Well, okay, so just for those who do not know, under the new, that's the revised pricing structure, the cost of the passport booklet will increase significantly, especially for SPIs. Obtaining a 32-page passport booklet with a 5-year validity will rise from 35,000 naira to 50,000 naira. Then the cost for 64 pages will rise from 70,000 naira to 100,000 naira, effective September 1st this year.
Okay, so brace up in case you haven't gotten yours. Go quickly apply now before it's too late.
But you don't know if what if they apply and then when it comes out they say pay the balance,
if you've applied, you paid everything. Anyway, let's go to the next one. Chief Justice, former Chief Justice now, Olukayode Ariwola, has bowed out of the service after attaining the 70 years, mandatory 70 years of retirement. Kekere Okun Justice, our Lord Justice, is taking over. But valedictory section, they organize it just to say thank you as well for them to, review their service here. And we've also observed that when it comes to those valedictory sessions, and the things they say, we say, why didn't you say this thing? But he's made a great point. He said, look, the Supreme Court is overburdened with loads of cases. But we are happy now we have 21 justices at the Supreme Court like we had. So we can have a couple of panels, even about 4 panels per time and all of that. That he's saying some cases should just end at the appellate court so that people can get dispensation of justice. Yomi_D411 says, congratulations, CJN Ariwola. Thanks for your life of service. Do have a great retirement. And Awos
Cody says that Nigeria will get better. Even former CJN Ariwola has retired. We are making progress. The judiciary will heal itself.
Grateful Lad says, power is transcendent. Nobody holds onto it forever. I guess that's what you wanted to say. May he reap the fruits of his labor 1,000 folds. I mean, I don't know. Is that sarcasm? Is that a good prayer? I don't know.
Okay, so let's go to the next one you've been talking about. That's NAFDAC seizing petrol tankers for transporting vegetable oil in Lagos.
Wonderful.
And the first one is actually coming from Case Bolari, who says that please kindly continue this good work. Safety first to Nigerians. Give heavy fines to that company and impound those maybe trucks, trades, maybe that's what she's trying to say. This is high risk to human consumption into the body system. That is why Nigerians always die with unknown sicknesses and cancer.
More. Transferring vegetable in
petrol tank. There's no way you can even clean that petrol tank enough to.
Juicy news for you says, the perpetrators are unrepentant since they don't get appropriate punishment for their acts. They should be treated as murderers.
And Gas CMB says the guess now those tankers got sick. Well, they are sick.
Got sticky. That's what they do.
Got to stick to what they do best, carrying that fuel, not frying up some plantains.
Moses, I guess that's what you wanted to call yourself on the X platform. The driver, owner of the truck and the oil should be given life sentences.
And Mr. Odufa says that people are very wicked. They should name the owner of that consignment.
John Chigozie says, thank you, NAFDAC, for taking swift action to protect public health. I think we'll now go to the one that we understand that yes, on weekend, the FCT minister declares Abuja park and pay policy as illegal. Gapia Garcia says, the idea was a good one. At least we know that the money generated will be put to good use, except now that park and pay, I realize, is not going to be business as usual for them. Let the contract be awarded to another person, please.
All right, Jeffrey, continue with the next one.
Okay, Ayode says, people are groaning under massive poverty and inflation, yet these people are imposing more taxes, I guess. Why can't some be disconnected? I guess that's what you wanted to say.
And let's see what Steve Donalds is saying. He says, what happens to all the monies they collected? Who's going to be punished for this illegality? Why did it take this long?
Paul of Truth says, this is the second time the park and policy is being declared illegal. First, it was during Buhari's administration. Now the Tinubu administration, it's time to do away with it for good. So, hey, those are the things we've been tracking, but we also have the ones you're reacting concerning. Nobody can accuse me of corruption. Hopu Zadima Lafa Mary Manshep says, subject your stewardship to an investigation first, no self-appraisal. You can't be judged in your own case.
Well, I guess you've called on people, anyone who thinks different can actually come out and say,
even if you call him out, even if you have evidence against him, you can't prosecute him until he leaves office. So that's why people are saying, hold your fire, don't be hasty, don't be your own, don't blow your own trumpet. Finish. When there's nothing covering you, then we'll find out whether you are really corrupt or not. But he said his own, you have your say. But hey, let's get to the big conversations we have for you for today. Those are the ones we can take on X. We'll be back after this break. Join us again.
I am in the premises of Magistrate Court 2, Oka, Anambra State. I am here with my clients. You can see us. We are still in court. The Honorable Magistrate granted my client bail in a very simple offense. And my client met the conditions of the bail. But the class of courts that I must give her 20,000 naira before she will take the records, the surety bond to the magistrate to sign. The clerk of the court also insulted me and called me names. This is the person that went to the magistrate for him to sign the document and return back and said that the magistrate said that we must bring 20,000 naira, whether we like it or not. If there is no justice for the common man in the judiciary, there will not be justice anywhere. When somebody is granted...
Well, that should be the essence of the judiciary, really. Justice for the common man. That video since gone viral online. And this morning, as much as we talk about the new dispensation, what will be, the president is meant to swear in the new CJN, Justice Kudirat Kekereekun, later today. But these are some of the issues that she'll have to confront at various levels. She is one of several people who will be playing in the judiciary. So this morning, we're digging deeper into the vital issues that affect the delivery of justice for the common man and, by extension, the generality of Nigerians. We have joining us on the show that man you saw there. His name, Emenike Chioke, is a human rights lawyer, as you can tell, and partner at Top Law and Attorneys. Enugu joins us virtually on the program. You're welcome to the Morning Brief, Emenike Chioke.
Thank you very much.
Well, lots of questions, really, and we're tying this conversation to the big picture. You know, it's like pixels, picture elements that make up the big picture. If we're not able to sort these things, then when we look at the big picture of the judiciary, what we see might not be palatable. So let's start off with that video, and we'll talk about, you know, proper independence from the judiciary, independence from political influence, from corruption in this case. But I'd like you to speak to that video because a lot of people saw it and they are seeking some sort of closure. Has there been a closure to that 20,000 naira being demanded? You said that you were going to come back. Have you come back? Has that been resolved? We'd like you to speak to us on that first, then we'll dovetail into other issues.
Okay, the last time I spoke with the Chief Registrar of Anambra State Judiciary, she assured me that the matter is being seriously investigated. I have not heard of any outcome of the investigation, but I believe that the stakeholders and the persons who are interested in the independence and in the fair running of the judiciary are on top of the matter. I believe they are definitely on top of the matter. We have not yet been contacted, but I believe that when they are done their investigation, that we will become contacted.
Right, and this is something we've heard across board in other parts of the country as well. So it's not just limited to the Magistrate Court 2 where you experience that. We've heard these reports in other parts of the country, and these are the issues that add up to give the judiciary sometimes a bad name, a bad image. So let's get to work. New CJN to be sworn in today by the president. A lot of people have spoken about her stellar performance, how she's incorruptible, and how her coming on board will mean great things for the judiciary. And I'd like us to identify these issues that you would expect her and, of course, other stakeholders in the judiciary to take on. If you had a priority list, what will that priority list look like?
You know, the first thing is that we need to get it right. The judiciary needs to get it right. The bedrock of justice and fairness in the judiciary is independence of the judiciary. In Nigeria, the mode of appointment of judicial officers is ridden with flaws. If you go to chapter 7 of the Constitution, that chapter states the governor shall appoint the chief judge of a state. The president shall appoint the chief justice of the federation. It cannot work in a democratic society where the president and the governor are elected, the heads of the legislative are elected, but when it comes to the judiciary becomes a stooge of the executive. That is in essence an extension of the arm of the executive. So the judiciary cannot be independent. The judiciary cannot obviously be independent when the chief judge and when the chief justice is appointed by the president or governor respectively. It cannot work in a judiciary in a democratic society. So the first thing we need to get right is a constitutional amendment. When there is a constitutional amendment, removing the power of appointment of judicial officers from the executive. Maybe that is where we can start from. We, the bar members, we are closer to the bench. The lawyers who are practicing, who are ministers in the temple of justice, know the members of the judiciary that are corrupt and the ones that are upright. So if the appointment will cease and it will now be by election by the people that understand the functionality of the judiciary, maybe with a constitutional amendment to that effect, we can start getting it right.
All right, Mr. Chioke.
Now tell me.
Mr. Chioke, let's dig deep. There's section 231 of the Constitution where the Chief Judge or Chief Justice of Nigeria is appointed. 3 people are involved. The language is the President will appoint based on the recommendation of the National Judicial Council, and then the Senate will confirm. Is there a problem with the framing of that? Do you also see that as unilateral decision of the executive arm, given that the recommendation has to come from the NJC and then confirmation by the Senate?
The truth is that the judiciary must be an independent arm of government. Let the executive not have an arm. Look, the word there is appoint. It simply means that the executive or the governor or the president can refuse to exercise the power of appointment, even in the presence of the recommendation of the NJC. So if the NJC recommends and the executive refuses to appoint, I mean, what does that tell us? And now, let us calm down. The NJC can do its job of recommending, and then let the people that understand the workings of the justice system do the voting and not even appointment. Let there be a constitutional amendment, making it a vote, making it an election. Because when you say appointment, the appointment can be influenced one way or the other. Even though we have a blanket provision of the NJC recommending, the executive, the governor, or the president can still grossly affect who is appointed and who is dismissed. Remember, when a justice of the Supreme Court was dismissed by the president of Nigeria. I mean, we know when the former CJN of Nigeria was dismissed by the former president of the Federation. Judiciary must be not just on paper, not just on theory, but in practice, totally independent. The practitioners in the temple of justice can determine, can know who are the upright, courageous, and incorruptible members of the judiciary.
Mr. Chair,
if the apex position in the judiciary is elected, they will be more accountable to dispensation of justice and not to this present administration. Yes, I have a personal problem with the fact that the chief executive of the federation or the state has to do the appointment. He was elected.
All right.
When it comes to a crucial fiber of a society which is justice administration, it is subjected to appointment and then confirmation by the Senate. Do I need to tell you that most of the members of the legislative arm do not represent us? They do not, in reality, they do not represent the interests of the masses. We know that they still represent largely their personal and political interests.
all right, Mr.
So
Chukin,
if the appointments.
yes, we've talked about this reform and constitutional reforms a lot right now, but let's turn our attention to the delay in court cases and, of course, hearing. If we listen to the outgoing CJN yesterday, he talked about how cases that are supposed to be, not even supposed to reach the apex court, should actually be terminated at the appellate court, eventually get to the apex court. And talking about this, you now decide, is it corruption taking it there? What is going on? Are some people more special in this case? Why does it have to get to the Supreme Court? Talk to us about how this can actually be reduced so that cases, serious cases, actually get to the Supreme Court when there is need to, and not just on serious cases, allow me to use that, getting there.
Yes, when justice is clearly seen to be done, when justice is clear, why wouldn't a party accept the decision of that court? The first reason why a litigant will decide to go higher to the apex or to the appellate and then to the apex court is because justice is not being clearly to be done. So by the time he appeals, he's still speaking for that justice that he was denied at the lower or at the trial court. So it is still a question, is the judiciary courageous and independent enough to dispense fairness without any partiality, without any favoritism? For example, if I have a personal case with the governor of my state or the executive arm of government, how am I sure that the judiciary in that state will give me justice when the judiciary is obviously or loyal to the executive. So we are still talking about the same thing. If the judiciary is totally, starting from the way it is appointed, independent, and if they are well remunerated in such a way that bribery or will not be an issue to both the staff of the judiciary and the members of the judiciary, it will help in curbing issues of excessive appeal. I mean, that is my take on that.
Right.
When justice is fair, when administration of justice is open and is fair, and we uphold the tenets, the tenets of justice, a party will be more comfortable accepting the dictates or the rulings of courts.
Right. Let me quickly come in now, because just recently the president approved a 300% salary increment for judicial officers. Whether or not that would change much as far as what you refer to as, recorded corruption in the judiciary is yet to be seen. Obviously, there's a lot of work to be done in terms of amendment, true independence, and that has been talked about. Even the former CJN now was talking about the judiciary being overburdened. But I want us to move a bit, because again, there's a big picture. There is what happens in the court, and there's what happens before you get into the court, and even after you're done in the court. And I go back to that video which you did, because these things actually add up to affect justice delivery. So I'd like you to also speak to some of the recommendations you may have for court clerks, some of those, adjoining issues that affect, imagine a client being granted bail and they say bail is free and you have to go through that. Obviously, justice has not been delivered, right? So recommendations for all those other issues that happen outside the courts and don't necessarily happen in the courts that you think that, should be brought up.
Yes. See, I tell you this, when a judicial officer is seen to be upright, at least in the dispensation of justice, the other staffs behind the scene will fall in line. It is not a rocket science that when a judge of a court is incorruptible, you cannot tell me that the clerk of court will have the boldness to delve into corruption. Even if they want to do it, it will not be with brazen audacity. So it trickles down from the head to from the top, it goes down to the last of the personnel. So if the members of the judiciary, the judges, the magistrates, if they get it right, if they are seen to be incorruptible, then behind the scene, the other staff of the judiciary will fall in line. Now, like in Enugu State High Court, for example, in Enugu State High Court, there are cameras everywhere monitoring the activities of the staff of the judiciary. Yes, they are monitored because there have been complaints about this issue of extortion of lawyers, and the Enugu State Judiciary came up with a system to monitor the activities of the courts of clerk. Now, it curbed it to a very large extent. So, but what I'm saying, the paramount interest is the judicial officers themselves. When the judicial officers uphold their oath of dispensation of justice without fear of favor, the other staff will fall in line.
All right, Mr. Chu, okay, let's remember that the judiciary is made up of the bar and the bench. So let's talk about the bar which you belong to. We've seen the lawyers also behave in a way that is not quite impressive. I'll give you a quick example. So for instance, a lawyer who went to the university, went to law school, graduated, should know some basic housekeeping rules and basics of the law. Things as simple as what court has jurisdiction over what issue is as basic can be. So sometimes it feels like tempting their law judges or law justices or the judges in court. When you go to a court, because that's one of the first things that will be established, whether that case can be heard in that particular court. So whilst we're shouting about sanitizing the bench, what do you have to say about the bar itself that has its own issue when someone approaches a court that doesn't have jurisdiction, and somehow the judge, some are bold enough to say, I don't have, this is wanting in jurisdiction, so I can't adjudicate over this, so it dismisses the case or strikes it out or whatever. But for some, for whatever reason, they'll speak to the ancillary issue and forget about the substantive issue. What's your take?
Well, ancillary issues are not the bane of justice. You know, justice is more substantive than procedural. That is why in the courts these days, when issues of procedure, when issues of technicalities come up, we implore the courts to focus more on the issue of substance and not the issue of technicality. But the issue of jurisdiction, a litigant or going to the wrong court, those ones are determined at the preliminary stage. I mean, if a party or if a counsel allows a case to go on in a wrong court, he is deemed to have waived his rights. He is stopped from raising that issue of procedural defects, except it goes to the root of the matter, except it affects the substance of the case itself, thereby affecting substantive justice. For example, commencing a case in a wrong judicial division is not a ground. It's not a ground for denying justice to the person that commenced the case in the wrong judicial division. So justice is more substantive than procedural, but it behoves the lawyer to do his homework, to do due diligence in a matter in the right court.
If you ask me, I asked a straight question. So when we talked about the bench, you were saying, let it be by election. Let it not be by appointment of the president. Now I've brought it to the bar, which you belong to. How do we reprimand effectively erring lawyers who know what to do and do the wrong things? That's what I mean.
We have LPDC, Legal Professional Disciplinary Committee. Yes, we have such body that disciplines lawyers too. If a litigant feels that a lawyer was grossly negligent in not knowing the basic tenets of the law, the basic issues of jurisdiction, I mean, an aggrieved party, the litigant can still take up the lawyer's incompetence in LPDC. He can still petition the Legal Professional Disciplinary Committee for the lawyer to be either sanctioned, disciplined, or even made to refund any fees he may have collected from such clients. So I mean, we have structure for disciplining of members of the bar. And I encourage members of the public to explore that structure too.
Mr. Choke, just before we let you go, I mean, a lot of people, some have argued about the court not having armed security or enforcement agencies when they get results, and they rely heavily on the police or other security agencies, especially when it comes to matters that concern government and generally cases where the government has interest in. Is this a situation about talking, of course, when we're talking about the independence of the judiciary, is this a conversation that we can begin to have as players in this sector?
Yes, definitely. In fact, you'll be so frustrated when you get justice against the executive arm of government. Who will execute it? The police? The military? Assuming you get a court order against DSS or against Nigerian Army or Nigerian Air Force or against any of the military or paramilitary organizations, who is going to help you enforce that court order? In fact, there's even a provision that for you to enforce any court order, any judgment against the government, you have to obtain the permission in writing of the Attorney General of the Federation or the state, as the case may be. The Attorney General that was appointed by the executive will still give you permission to enforce a court order against the executive. I mean, if the judiciary must be independent, there must be a forceful backing to its decisions. In this country, it is only against poor tenants that the bailiffs of court have power to enforce judgments of the court. Only against. How have we enforced judgments of the court against DSS in this country, against Nigerian police? How have we been able to enforce court orders against them? How have we been able to attach properties of some agencies of the government that we obtain judgments against? How can we? I mean, it's so frustrating that after spending some years in court and getting justice, now enforcing it, for you to enforce the justice, you have to begin another legal proceedings called garnishing proceedings to either attach money in bank or attach property.
Right. Emily Kechuke, quite a number of issues you have raised, really, and clearly there's a job of work to be done by the new CJN, as well as the bar, because clearly this is a work that has to be done together. But we'd like to thank you so much. The passion with which you approach issues about the judiciary clearly shows that you want things to get better. Human rights lawyer, partner, top law, and attorney Enugu, Emily Kechuke, thank you so much for your time on the show this morning.
Thank you, sir. Thank you, sir. It's a pleasure.
Yes, a lot to chew on. But we'll take a moment now. When we return, we'll turn our attention to the tourist sites in Nigeria. Guess who joins us? The Minister of Tourism. You don't want to miss this. Stay with us.
Welcome back. This is still the morning brief on Channels Television. And now we talk about tourism, something that would affect every single individual in Nigeria when it talks to bringing dividends into the country. We know that following independence back in 1960, the organized tourism started actually with the establishment of Nigeria Tourist Association, which started in 1962. So tourism development, as we know, brings foreign inflows, brings infrastructural development, and a whole lot of things, especially when you look at how it is done in other climes. When you bring it to Nigeria, you begin to ask what has been going on since 1960. So today on the show, we have the Minister of Tourism, Mrs. Lola Adejohn, in our Abuja studios to tell us what the journey has been and what we are up to as a country when it comes to tourism. Thank you very much for joining us on this show this morning.
Thank you very much. Good morning.
Good morning,
everybody.
Now, let's
tourism.
Let's start with how you see tourism in this country and how it has been from 1960 to this very moment. If you were to describe the sector and how far we've come, what would that be?
Well, my own recollection and knowledge starts from about 2005. Where we, in that administration, there was an emphasis on ensuring that tourism thrives in the country in the Obasanjo regime. There was a policy, there was a master plan, and there was a big drive to ensure that people come into the country and move around the country to experience what the country has to offer. And from then on, tourism, it progressed, and there was a bit of a lull in the past administration. But this administration has recognized the fact that in order to diversify revenues, and to ensure that tourism is the #1 generator of revenue, the Renewed Hope agenda is putting everything it has into ensuring that objective.
So when you say that the present administration has identified those areas where this is not, why this is not happening, what are those specific areas that have been identified, and how is the Renewed Hope agenda set to tackle it in terms of specifics this time?
Well, the policy that was put together in 2005, we've renewed it, or should I say we've started the process, and the first draft has come out. The president also has encouraged the resuscitation of the Presidential Tourism Council, and where we'll be meeting and with all the ministers, the stakeholders, aviation, immigration, works, and power, education, security, all those ministers are in the Presidential Tourism Council, and also the stakeholders, which consists of the governors in all the 36 states and the Federal Capital Territory, and external stakeholders. They are all involved in the tourism stakeholder steering committee, and we're taking all the issues. A lot of them, you know, everybody knows that we have security issues, but we're not the only country that has security issues. We're going to ensure that tourism goes from the communities right up to the local government, to the states, and to the federation itself, so that women and youth and all the people in the country are involved in selling what we have, selling our culture, selling our the good things in this country, and all the things that we can think of, conservation, etc.
All right, madam, when you talk about priority, as soon as you mention the word priority, one of the first place as a checklist is how much is allocated to that sector. And I'm looking at your budget in your ministry, Federal Ministry of Tourism. I see that in an entire year, you have just about 18 billion. Even if we have that, add that of creative economy, arts and culture, which is roughly about 27 billion cumulatively, because I know you have an overlapping responsibility in some sort. I don't think it's more than 45 billion. So how is this a priority?
Database, which will get all the information from Nigeria Bureau of Statistics, from aviation, from immigration, from hotels, from restaurants, and we use the figures there to have more or less accurate figures of our contribution to GDP and also tax. That's the first priority, and that's why it appeared as if the budget was small compared to arts and culture, because we need to ensure that we have those basics in place. Then the second part of the budget is to work with the communities, train the communities to be ready for tourism itself. In the other parts of the cabinet, especially when it comes to infrastructure, we do have infrastructure. However, they're ailing. We've started the cabinet, or should I say, the government has started resuscitation of roads, repairs, and we all know that the coastal road has started, and it's affecting 9 states with the beaches and all that, you know. So it's the coastal road that will open up activities in 9 states, as well as transportation between the south and the north.
Right.
Yes.
So, Honorable Minister, I want us to be a bit more practical, right? Because this is Friday. A lot of people have the weekend to just do things. That they listen to this conversation and thinking, okay, maybe I can explore some tourist attraction here in Nigeria. And, you know, there's this book from Dayo Adedayo. I'm sure you must have seen the book, Tour Nigeria. It's like my tourism Bible. I mean, look at the images, beautiful. I look at the national parks. We have at least 15 national parks. National museums, we have at least 45. And that's not to talk of private museums. You can imagine all of the gold in those museums. Then you look at historical and tourist attractions across the state. Madam, we have hundreds. I mean, hundreds. Some states have too much that they even know. Some of them have not even been scratched, talk more of, you know, explored enough. So I'd like you to speak to us about the numbers you are seeing and what you're seeing in terms of revenue. We've seen figures like $2.9 billion, you know, contribution to GDP. Ghana doing $1.9 billion, and Ghana is like, what, 5 or 1/5 the size of Nigeria. So, Honorable Minister, in terms of the numbers of this site and the revenue, what are you looking at?
We're hoping that in between now and the next 4 years, the revenue itself will increase fourfold to almost surpass the revenues that we're getting from the oil and gas, because the revenue creation starts from within the country itself. The dependence on revenues from visitors coming into the country is not as much as from within the country itself. Are people going to one place, from one place to the other, and also creation of jobs and from the white collar jobs to the informal sector, and all that together will ensure that the revenue increases fourfold.
So if you say, pardon me, and if you say fourfold, are we looking at, if we're doing $2.9 billion, are we looking at $12 billion? And to say it will surpass oil, that's a huge target. Is it really attainable? And we'd like to hear practicalities. So are you partnering with the private sector? Because these are things that will actually sell these tourist sites. How much of technology are you bringing in? Infrastructure as well, not just roads and stuff, but infrastructure in those places. You have tourist areas that don't have, cable cars are not working. And I know you know where I'm talking about, the Obodo Cattle Ranch, and that's meant to be a big seller, infrastructure decay and all of that. So maybe tell us about the plans.
Every tourism sits in the states. Every state has tourist attractions. In fact, we've compiled over 1,000 tourist attractions in the country. The revenue, the regeneration or resuscitation of the assets has already started. Ikogosi in Ekiti has started, and they've claimed that they've only done 5%, but it's already habitable. And when we went to visit, there were already tourists there, both international and local tourists. The resuscitation of Obudu Mountain Resort has already started. Also from the private sector, and there's plans to build an international airport there and revive the villas and also build a new hotel there. And the most important thing is bringing in power, and there's a dam that is being worked on to ensure that there's constant electricity. The Yankari Game Reserve, there's also discussions going on with the Bauchi State Governor and potential investors for the repopulation of the animals in the cattle ranch, and also to ensure that there's the adequate security, and so on and so forth. So also in the east, we are looking at the caves and the waterfalls, and also in Oyo State, the only suspended lake in the world is in Oyo State. We're also in plans engaging with external stakeholders to revive and to ensure that it is welcoming to our tourists, local and international tourists. And then on the digital side, we, because of our children in diaspora and also in schools here in Nigeria, we want to encourage visual and virtual tours to some of these beautiful sites that we have. You've seen the pictures, and to encourage virtual reality as a means of exposing our country to everybody.
So let's talk about that exposure and how much has been put into exposing the beautiful sceneries we have in this country. Talking about awareness, I think this is the time that the ministry can work with influencers, especially social media influencers, who know these places and who can actually preach the gospel to people on how beautiful these places are. Talking about safety, of course, that will be another discussion. For example, I didn't even know that Ibadan had Eleyele Lakes. I had stayed in Ibadan for more than 4 years, and seeing it on social media, it was so beautiful. So how much do you take awareness seriously to make everyone know that, oh, we have these beautiful things. It's not just you traveling abroad every time. Work with schools, for example, with students going on excursions. I remember how we used to do that growing up. How much energy are you putting into awareness, actually, as a ministry?
Well, we all know that awareness is fully dependent on the media, and both the social media as well as the print media. Promotion, and so we need a lot of money, and we're looking for investors as well as the government itself into promoting what we have in this country on the various channels, the news and the papers, and but we're also working with our influencers. We've started engaging with like the Authentic Cyclists. We have Lagos State has encouraged the collaboration with Pelumi, who drove from the UK all the way across the desert to Nigeria. She is also an influencer. We also have our chefs, the chef Elegbede and what have you. We are also working with Osun State, and there are connections with some of our musicians, and they will also be some of our influencers in Nigeria. We also are working with the Culture Ministry and the National Orientation Agency to bring out the best of what we have in this country.
All right, Minister, let's talk about something that can be strategic, measurable, and time-bound as to what you aspire this to be in the next 4 years. Because I see that you've been mentioning a few things, but the truth is that people are not feeling it, the Ministry of Tourism, because at the end of the day, that's why we're asking whether it's winking in the dark or what exactly is going on, because this is a huge potential I was looking at the UN data of 2022. Nigeria is nowhere among the top 5. So we have Egypt, Mauritius, and the rest of the country. Not to even talk of the global numbers. So maybe you give to us, between now and, say, the next election cycle, 2024, where as a ministry do you want tourism to be in Nigeria? Is it among the top 10, among the top 5? How much do you want tourism to generate when you aggregate all the numbers at the end of the day? Because to be very sincere with you, Honorable Minister, I know things are going on within the ministry, but I don't think Nigerians are feeling what you're doing from that ministry.
I agree with you that people are not feeling what we're doing in the ministry. I would say that our work actually started in January this year, and we did a complete review of what was on ground. And that was why I came up with the idea that we need to put our database in place. If you can't measure, you cannot monitor, and you cannot plan, which we believe is the most important thing. And that has taken a lot of effort, a lot of time, a lot of effort to put that in place. And we're almost there. We've secured funding for that, and we're currently in the process of building that database, which also requires input from the various external stakeholders, aviation, immigration, the hotels, eateries, and what have you. So we've done that, or we're doing that. The second part is going around to some of the sites to establish what needs to be done, and also to encourage investment from the private sector into those tourist sites. That is a lot of hard work, and I mean, we do expect a miracle and magic in that we need to be seen, we need to be heard, but we believe that planning is also very important. Without proper planning, and we're just jumping into things, we cannot sustain, we won't be able to sustain that. And so we have plans, and the visibility will start to grow. We have a gastronomy fair, which we intend to get the country involved in before Ramadan next year, 2005. There are lots of activities this year, apart from what normally happens in Lagos. There are some other festivals that we are encouraging, and we'll soon be publicizing those. I don't want to say too much for now, but the publicity will start, I can assure you, and you feel it.
All right, Honorable Minister, I like the part where you talked about investments and collaborations with private sectors. We've seen what has happened in the past with people who have come to invest in some of these lovely sites. And for example, the landmark area and other businesses that were affected as a result of the coast line and the rail, that road supposed to pass through the coastal area in the country. What other confidence, how should investors even be confident that they invest and put their money into something and it just goes away in just a second? How would the federal government ensure they work with these private sectors and these investors who want to come and put their own money down into ensuring the tourism sector is improved in this country? How would they be assured that they are doing the right thing?
That is why I said that planning is very important. Yes, mistakes were made. The understanding that some of our investors had were not quite correct, and things happened in the past. Investments were done, but some things were not done properly, and we have to admit that. So it means that all the investment that we want to get and we want to encourage, we have to ensure that we dot our I's and cross our T's to ensure that from a legal perspective and also from a governance perspective, things are done properly. In the past, I don't want to say too much about what happened in Landmark, but clearly on all sides, both the government and also the private sector, things were not as it appeared. And so those mistakes will not happen again, that I can assure you.
Well, we'll hold on to those words because it's important to protect what we have. Yes, follow the law as well. So it's a very good balance. I do not envy you at all, Honorable Minister, because your work is a very tricky one. On the one hand, you get to see the tourist attractions, historical sites, which some may envy you for. On the other hand, you have a job to do while you're doing that, ensure that at least those places, the policies, ensure that those places are profitable for the good of our nation. So it's a mix, fun and a lot of work doing that. So I want you to, this morning, Honorable Minister, sell some of these sites to Nigerians. As I said earlier on, today's Friday. People are probably penning down their plans for the weekend. So maybe sell to us top 5 tourist attractions for you. I know, yes, you don't want to be biased, but you have to have at least a top 5. So I want you to sell it to a prospective tourist, either a Nigerian or otherwise, who has this weekend free and wants to go out.
Yes, thank you. So for me, number 1 attraction is Obudu, mountain resort. It's heaven. We went to the top of the mountain, and it was as if the clouds came down to meet us there. Despite the fact that the cable car is currently being revived, it's still a beautiful place. It compares with a lot of places in the world. So that's for me the number 1 place. The number 2 place is the Kogosi. It was also revived by the Ekiti State government as well as the private investors, Kavista Holdings, and they've done a wonderful job. It's a place to go to. As I said, there are already visitors there, and what I found fascinating is that the community itself were the ones that put the place, they cleared it out and they're involved. They look after the place, and the place is heavily secured. So it's a wonderful place. So that's the second one. In the north, believe it or not, we have in Yobe State, we have the desert safari, which is also very prominent and is also worth going to. Yes, it's a bit rough to get there, but it's actually worth it. The other place is in Taraba, Gashaka Gunte, where we have conservation and we have the animals and what have you. It's another beautiful place. You can imagine, even though the population of the animals have reduced, it's still worth going to. Then in the southeast, we have the Anum caves. It's with the colors and the experience you have is something to behold. Then, as I said, we have the waterfalls in Kwara State. That I haven't been there. I've seen pictures, and we're working with the state government on that. That's also worth going to. And in Oyo State, we have the suspended lake, that is also worth visiting. And we're also hoping to get certification from UNESCO as a heritage site. And we have places in Lagos, for instance. We have Badagry.
Pardon me, Honorable Minister, if I left you to do this, pardon me, if I left you, I'm sure you market all of the over 1,000 locations for Nigerians and those outside. But it's just goes to show.
10.
I said 5. You doubled it, Honorable Minister.
You said 5.
I said 5, but it's okay.
I thought you said 10.
It's okay. We'll take the other ones as time goes by. But these are the messages that should be on repeat at the airport. And every chance that people get to interact with Nigerians, these things should be on repeat. And I tell you that the media is here to support you on that one. But quickly, as we begin to wind down, I want to ask, because there's a lot of work for you to do, rather. And there was that scare, that health scare you had. For a lot of people, they've not gotten closure to that, but they're happy to see you. So I'd like you to maybe give some sort of closure to that. What happened and how are you now? It's important to check on our ministers, and that's what we're doing.
When you say healthcare, you mean me?
Yes,
myself.
You. Health scare, yes. It was reported last year.
Oh, yes. I actually don't know what happened. I was ill. The medical team in Abuja did a fantastic job. And I was cured. I think I had what you call cerebral malaria, and everything was done to ensure that I recovered. And I did recover. You can see how I look. I think I'm a picture of health right now, and it was all done locally. In fact, one of our tourism streams is medical tourism, because we do believe that we have what it takes in this country, and we find that the cost of medical treatment is comparable and much cheaper than anywhere else in the world. And we're working with the various private hospitals to sell what we are capable of doing. So I'm a picture of and a recipient from the medical tourism. And even though I was ill, but I'm back, and I'm back on track. Yes.
We're super glad that you're better and back. And we wish you the very best. But as we begin to wind down, a quick one. South Africa has its own share of insecurity, but people still head down to South Africa for one form of tourism or the other. We Nigerians, we know we have insecurity as a challenge. How is your ministry collaborating with the security agencies on one hand, and then the aviation sector? We had the FAN MD, she came here, she spoke to us about, she told us about 20-something airports in Nigeria, the true functional ones that are actually sustaining that sector, it's just about 3. So that's a very bad data, a very bad scorecard as far as airports are concerned, whether international or local. So my question is, despite the challenges we have, what ingenious way are you looking forward to ensuring that people come to Nigeria to have a bit of leisure and pleasure?
Okay, thank you. So the process of coming starts not from the airports, but it actually starts from immigration, the visas, and getting a passport. We're working with the immigration agencies, and the ease of getting visas have improved and will continue to improve. So especially within Africa, the ECOWAS region, and also from abroad, the diaspora, the visas are easier to get now as we speak. That's the first thing. Then the airports itself are going through a major uplift. And also the people that work in the airports, we're starting the training to ensure that they're welcoming and people can go and talk to them, and also they do what they're supposed to do in the airport. There was a time that it was full of touts in the airports, but they've reduced significantly. When I go to the airports, I don't sit in the VIP lounge. I sit in the open air, and I observe and see what happens in the airport. So I am I would say I'm one of the first people to experience or to feel what actually happens at the airports. So I can also repeat what you experience. And I can assure you that the Minister of Aviation, I talk to him regularly. He's also working with other stakeholders, in the private sector to help to revamp what is in the airports.
All right, Honorable Minister, thank you very much. Collaboration is the key word here, and I hope that the ministry also can actually provide brochures or leaflets to put in hotel rooms or at the reception in hotels, which we see in other climes when you travel outside the country. Maybe that will help tell people more about Nigeria and the beautiful things and places we have in the country. So thank you very much, Mrs. Lola Adejon, Minister of Tourism. Thanks a lot for your time on the morning brief today.
Thank you. Thank you very much. And in terms of the brochures, it's not just the hotels. Also, we're going to have tourist desks in all the cities and across the country.
All right. Great. Well done. Well done.
Thank you.
All right, we're not done just yet. We have more for you, and it's about to make you laugh, but that's in a moment when we return. So please stay with us.
Well, there's a lot going on in Nigeria, and once in a while, I just take out time to just ease off that pressure. It's a weekend edition of the program, and of course, that's why we bring the lighter side of things right here on the Morning Brief. I've been joined in the program by a comedian who is based in Akwa Ibom State in New York. Idika Odeba is known as General Ode, is the commander of the Funny Battalion Entertainment. General Ode, thank you so much for coming on the program. Good to see you.
Thank you very much, Jeff. It's good to see you today. You look amazing.
Thank you. My producer, the people in the back end of production are asking, this dressing, what is going on? What is happening? So maybe you can give an explainer as to why you chose this part and whether you've had encounter with the armed forces and how it played out, because anybody will be mistaking you to a serving officer.
Sure. A lot of people have actually mistaken me for a serving officer, especially when I go for events. Before the events, I would just be outside. Some big men will enter and say, wow, they like the fact that they have a security presence here. Wow. Some of them will be calling their friends. Senator, don't come with the police van. We have military presence. It's just like 5 minutes or 10 minutes into the event, because they will now start calling their friends. So I beg, bring police. This guy over there will not know who he is. So a lot of people mistake this outfit for a military personnel. But that was just me, General Ode, the Comedy General, Federal Republic of Nigeria, the Minister of Foreign Affairs and Commanding Officer of the 419 Battalion. By the grace of God, I'm the officer that joined the force by force. The one that removes uniform when he sees other officers just to avoid frog jump.
I was getting to that point that how many frog jumps have you done? That's what I was getting to now. Have you ever done frog jumps at any point? Have you had to sleep in the guard room, as they say? Have they made you blank in the gutter or whatever? Speak to us about that. Is that something you've encountered in specific now?
Actually, I've not encountered that before. So most times when they see me and explain myself to them, they just begin to laugh at me. You are very so you have the mind to wear this. I say, just to hustle, for Ghana hustle. It's my own transaction. So I've not done that before. No front jump. The only thing I avoid is go to a foreign land that they don't understand who I am. But there was a time I was actually going to Ibadan. I was actually driving to Ibadan one of these days, and Just on our way, I was stopped by these police officers, and they were like, who are you? What are you? Where will you? I just told them, my brother. You see this uniform, me I don't know what they are wearing, but he resembles military uniform, but never a military uniform. The guy looked at it, it's not a uniform, not just comedian. So I've not really done any front job before.
All right, General Ode, you're not the only one wearing any 3-star or something. This is 3-star here, so maybe you inspired me to wear this today.
No, it's not on your shoulder.
I beg you, somewhere it's on my body. Yeah, I agree. So anyway, I saw something that caught my attention on the internet. You said, I do humorous things in righteousness. I do not understand what that means. Maybe you help me understand what righteousness has to do with comedy.
Actually, when I wanted to go into comedy, I had to consult. Okay. I have people over me that when I want to take serious decisions, I meet them and say, this thing I want to do, how should I go about it, counsel me. So being a church boy from the beginning, I decided to go into comedy. I discussed with my pastor then, and he was like, you can go into comedy and be different. Let your comedy be like your passing message, whatever you do, even though it's funny. Don't be blaspheming, don't be vulgar, don't be salty, don't be abusive. Just do your clean, classy comedy and just set a mark different from others. So right from then, over 10 years, I've just been that guy that would just say, this one, even if you put him in a nightclub, he will talk some plain jokes.
Ode. So, let's go back to how you got into comedy in the first place, because that's what we try to do anytime we bring in a guest. We try to allow you walk us through your journey. How did you start out? What were you doing before? Or what is it that we should know about your journey before you became the General Ode that we know today?
Okay, thank you very much for that question. The journey began when I was in the university. I was actually a singer. I had a music group where we sing, we go to events, we sing. We're like 7 of us in Rocket for Christ Choir, then in Calabar. So we go sing and minister, and I discovered that when we minister, the prayers are always more than the envelope give us. So before we do sharing will not go round. And it became a concern to me. I was like, the part I want to choose, I started trusting God for something different. Before singing, even when I'm singing, when I was singing then, I used to do some humorous things, crack jokes on campus, just among my friends, not like on the stage. So the first day I was pushed on stage to do comedy was when the Yellow Network visited our school for activation, and they were like, you people don't have a comedian in this university, you don't have a comedian, please send us a comedian. And my friends were just busy shouting, go, go, go. I was like, this crowd is too much. In fact, I can't. They had to force me immediately. I went up there. That is how I did what I did. I don't know how long I took, because immediately I got up there, I didn't know what I was saying. But when I finished, the whole school was like, hey, because I sounded like an Hausa guy that day. I used the accent, and I came down, they were like, Aboki, 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 That is how I just found that favor, love. And right from that day, people started inviting me all these hostels for their birthday parties. Some girls invite me for their, events. The school started carrying me along on some social activities. I started, from the campus, building a community. From then, I went outside the community of the campus environment into the city, started hosting weddings, hosting end-of-year parties, started featuring some government events, and that's how it just began. It just happened.
All right.
So,
I must say that
was the journey so far.
And it's beautiful to see. I must say you have a very infectious persona. Your laugh gets me laughing, and that's really rare. So people laugh, you just wonder why you're laughing. It's not funny, but for you, it just adds to the whole stage, your set and the act. But let's take a listen to something you've done, and then we'll come back for the home stretch. So this is General Ode, who has not done frog jump by virtue of his uniform, making people laugh as he always does.
It's really good to be here. Turn to your neighbor and say, neighbor. Say, neighbor. It's good to sit by your side. Use some accent. I know say 50% of us go like Japa. So start to practice. Say, neighbor. You look amazing. You look great. Tell that neighbor the way I'm looking at you. Don't run and leave me in this country. Can we put our hands together and celebrate ourselves? Thank you very much. Thank you very much. Okay. My name is General Ode. I know some of you probably know me already because you might have seen my face on radio, heard my voice on TV, and I've watched my videos on newspaper. My name is General Ode, the Comedy General, Federal Republic of Nigeria, Minister of Foreign Affairs and Commanding Officer of the 419 Battalion.
I've definitely seen your face on radio and heard your voice on TV, General Ode. But you know, you were trying to build a set there, and I heard the way you try to bring in the audience. So sometimes on their phone, they're distracted, maybe with life issues, maybe they've just gotten the debit alert, or you know, all of those challenges. So speak to us about maybe the most difficult part of this job, which we always ask, just so that we can share some of the experiences you've had with others and encourage them.
I would say the most difficult part of this job is actually the few seconds you have mounting the stage and the few minutes you have to get them, you know, from that mode that is just relaxing to a very hilarious moment. Those times are always very challenging for every comedian or public speaker or someone. And some of them will say they have outgrown it, but the thing is that moment is always there. You're wondering, how am I going to do this? So for me, is that time I'm about to climb the few minutes. So what I do is when I get up there, I just want to relax with them before I begin to lift them. Because how you just go there, so rousy and noisy, they're like, how did this one just come here now? How did you get here? So what I do is I try to be with them, carry them along, because I'm more of a spontaneous comedian. So I don't bring materials from where I'm coming from most times. I just want to play along what is available and just go around it. That's what happens.
All right, General Ode, let me say something that concerns women right now, because I see that you brought in your wife in this comedy business, and on one of the YouTube videos, I saw her casting the news, and she was really doing well. Maybe you should start thinking about bringing her into broadcasting. But how did this even... did you infect her with this comedy thing, or is it that contagious that, you started doing it, let me also? It was really nice to see your wife casting news and bringing her into comedy. How is that going at the moment?
Actually, my wife is actually a very serious personality. She does a joke. She does this melancholy that once stays straight, doesn't want to play around. Yeah. So sometimes I will just use that. I'll just use that. Yeah, you are too serious. Just serious. Take some time and just laugh, play. It's not every time you're using calculator to calculate lifetime. You have to just ease up. So that was just the edition we did, and she was like, he doesn't like it. He should just stick to what he's doing. I was like, at least I brought you out of it. So she's a broadcaster, comedian, and also a radio presenter. So we try to get to a point where we just agree with each other.
See how your influence...
Okay, as we go wind down, maybe some of your funny, I don't know whether there's such a thing as the funniest joke you've done. If there's one, maybe you can share with us, or the joke that caught people's attention.
Funniest joke that caught people's attention. There are many jokes I have that I would say I've delivered at some point that were really hilarious. I think one of them will be the part where a friend of mine told me that since I dress like a military man, I should use their accent. I should use their accent and use their vowels, their lingua franca, and communicate with them so they don't disturb me at this point and all this. So I said, which one should I be using? I said, anytime you see the police there, just tell them esprit de corps. Or it's like esprit de corps. What does it mean? Just be saying it anywhere you see them. So there was this day I was driving to Port Harcourt. I got to a checkpoint just close to Ibawa, and I saw a policeman, and the man said, "Hey, Park, who are you?" I said, esprit de corps. Let me go. It worked. I went in front a bit. I saw a road safety. They were all parked and they flagged me down. I stopped. They said, "Who are you?" I said, esprit de corps. It worked. They allowed me go. They carry on. I saw a Navy checkpoint. And at this point, I was scared to say esprit de corps. But one man said, "Stay." I got there and I looked at them eyeball to eyeball. I said, esprit de corps. They said, "Carry on, sir." This thing worked for the police, the Navy, the SR. The point I got surprised was when I was getting close to Port Harcourt, I saw a military checkpoint, army checkpoint. That is when I know that army does not know esprit, does not know corps, does not know what. I just got there immediately. They saw me. The army man said, "Hey, come down from the motor." I said, "Is it motor or motor?" He said, "Come down from the motor." And I said, "Sir, esprit is a crime. Don't mention esprit. Come down." Sir, please let me. He said, "Don't esprit." Immediately, he called one of his military friends. "Danjuma, bring up for the AK-47. Danjuma was coming. "Salisu, bring up for the AK-42. That one was coming. This one was coming with slap. Immediately they got to where we were. He now asked me, "What did you say you are? Esprit the what?" I said, "Sir, esprit the fool." Esprit the what? I said, "Esprit the idiot."
Esprit the idiot.
Oh, Baba, you cast last.
Last.
General Ode, the commander of the 40 Battalion, thank you so much for coming on the program. We really appreciate it and wish you and your battalion the very best.
Thank you very much. I really appreciate Jeff and everybody with you.
Wow.
All right.
Okay, that's a good dose of laughter.
Absolutely. And so that's how we wrap it up on the program for the weekend for today. Thank you so much for your time and company. I'm Jeffrey Uzoma.
Oh, thank you for joining us. Thank you for watching with us. Thank you for staying with us. Make sure you enjoy the weekend so that when it comes to Monday, you can say, "Thank God it's Monday." It's not just Friday. So thank you for watching.
There is no thank God it's Monday anywhere.
No, but if you rest well, you will say, "Thank God it's Monday." So for us, that work weekends. I am Anne Wawado. Thank you for watching.
Don't forget to visit a tourist destination in Nigeria this weekend. Okay, let's support our own. Sunrise Daily is next. I'm Kayode Okikilu. Goodbye.
Bye-bye.